Okay, so listen, I was very disappointed in how some of the kids did on the test. Some kids did really, really well, mid 90s. A lot of kids got disappointing grades, and I don't think it's the reason I'm upset is it's not because it's the grade that's disappointing. It was that you had a couple of pre-tests before you had to take this test, and all of the sample questions were on there in that pre-learn packet. And there were certain questions that were there that we went over,
Stephanie Carlos, please come to the main office.
and yet the answers I received from a lot of kids weren't even in the ballpark. And when that's the case, that means the kids didn't prepare. And something that we've preached all year long is that performance is a function of preparation. So it means you didn't prepare. And if you didn't prepare, then you got what you deserved. So you really got to be ready for it. Now, you may have worked hard. That's possible. But you certainly didn't work smart. So you either didn't work at all or you didn't work smart. But I'm going to go through all of the questions. And then during the week this week, hopefully we'll master a bunch of these things. I'm going to make some quizzes that look like some of the most popularly missed questions on this so that we'll be better prepared for next Friday's test and the similar questions, because a lot of the tests will look similar. Okay, without any further ado, let's get started with number one. Okay, so number one is a difference of two perfect squares kind of question. And as you look at this, you notice right away that they do not share anything in common. So there is no common factor to take out. That's always what you look for first, is a common factor. But you should notice that they are perfect squares, and you can square root both of them. And when you can do that, it becomes the pattern for factoring 3x plus 5y, 3x minus 5y. And once again, the reason for that is because if I double distribute it all out, in the middle here are 0xy's. And when I do here, put plus 5x, 15xy's and minus 15xy's, I get the 0xy's I'm looking for, yet 3x times 3x is 9x squared, and 5y times negative 5y is negative 5y squared. Now, a lot of times when we do our factoring, we do it a lot more formal than that, or more formally than that. But this one is a pattern. You're supposed to recognize it. We have done them daily now for over a week, probably 2 weeks. Yet, you're not recognizing that. And that means that when you're getting it wrong on do-its and homeworks and pre-tests, that you're not doing something about it. We put up the homework answers probably 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, that had to do with the factoring. And each day I said, are there any questions? And there were questions just like that, yet I got none. So you need to be more proactive and hunt that down. And then when you do your relearn packet, or your pre-learn, I'm sorry, and you're looking at a question like that and you're not getting it right because there were two just like it, then you need to be in extra help and you need to be bugging me, even if it's at the cafeteria during lunch, and you got to say, hey, how do I do this? Okay, number two, we always look for a common factor first, like crossing the road, you look both ways. These share a 7 in common, so it's 7 times d plus 4, and always quick mental check, multiply back. 7 times d is 7d, 7 times 4 is 28. So I know I got that one right. Next, c squared minus 9c. Now on this one, I saw some people go double packages, double bubble, whatever you want to call it, and that would be a mistake because you need to look and see if they share a common factor. And they do. Yes, you can find the square root of 9, I agree, but you can't find the square root of c. But they share a c in common, so you should have pulled out the c, and you get c minus 9. Distributing back, c times c is c squared, c times negative 9 is negative 9c. So those were 3 questions that should be unbelievably easy, direct, and straightforward. Now we get into more questions that should be very doable, and for the most part, on these, we did well. A few kids messed up the signs here and there, and I'll go over that. Remember, for these, we use the AM method. I have to multiply out to 20 and add up to negative 9. Now, my possible factors of 20 are 1 and 20, negative 1 and negative 20, because I'm going out to positive 20. 2 and 10, negative 2 and negative 10. 4 and 5, or negative 4 and negative 5. Now, which one of those combinations gets you a negative 9? It's negative 4 and negative 5. So my factors are x minus 4 times x minus 5. Now, let's use this same list of factors for the next one, b squared minus 8b minus 10. And the correct answer here is b minus 10, b plus 2. Look, if I multiply back, remember it's am. B times b is b squared. B times 2 is 2b. Negative 10 times b is negative 10b, and negative 10b's and 2b's do add up to negative 8b. Negative 10 times positive 2 is negative 20. Some kids I saw reverse the signs. Can't do that. Well, I believe that if they'd have done a quick mental check back, they would have seen that that would be a mistake. Next one. Now, you remember the calculator trick where we do y equals? You take the last number, 14, divided by x, and that generates the table. But at some point, we should be getting comfortable enough that we know the factors of 14 off the top of our head, and which ones add up to negative 9. It's n minus 7 and n minus 2. Quick mental check back. N times n is n squared. N times negative 2 is minus 2n. Negative 7 times n is negative 7n. Negative 2n and negative 7n make negative 9n. Negative 7 times negative 2 is 14. I'm not going to do all the mental checks back. I'm going to trust that you can do that on your own now. The next one, x squared minus 14x minus 32 would be x minus 16, x plus 2. Again, I saw some kids who reversed the signs. Be careful. This is always going to be the sign in front of the middle term. Will always be the sign of the bigger number. Because when you add and the signs are different, the rule is to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So that is the sign that's kept, so that must be the bigger number. Okay, now number 8 is a bit more challenging. This is a Plan B guy, and we did pretty well on this. But a few people not quite clean all the way through. Everybody looked, I think, for a common factor of 3. They didn't find it. 3 doesn't go into negative 7 or negative 20. So we go to Plan B, multiply by 3 at the end, and we get v squared minus 7v minus 60. And then we factor that, and people were pretty good about realizing it was 12 and 5. In fact, they were better than pretty good. They were very good. Okay, now I have to come back in and divide by the 3. And here's where I'll get upset. Now, everybody seemed to know to reduce to 12 over 3, and they all got v minus 4. But some people put v plus 5/3 in. How do you do that? We went over this, I can't say how many times, where we multiply, we do the elementary school technique, and we do 3 times v plus 5. Now, if you walked into the test and you did not do that, you were not prepared. And the problem is either that you just don't care, which I hope is not the case, or you don't know what preparation is. But you need to walk in there saying, look, he gave us one of these every single day for 2 weeks. This is what we did every single time to get the correct answer. If he does it every day for 2 weeks, there's a really, really, really good chance he's going to put it on test. Yet, people came in and put this as the other factor, and that's just not even close, because if you multiply back, you would never get 3v squared. Remember, you're always supposed to do a quick mental check by multiplying back. Maybe if you would have done that, you would have seen your mistake and saved you some points. Okay. Now, factor completely. Factor completely is a very important phrase. You read factor completely, it always means 2 steps. And a lot of people got these right. I'd say about half. And about half got it wrong. And that's again, that shouldn't happen. Now, people saw that they shared an x in common here. So they went x times x squared minus 144. That's very good. And they did recognize a lot of the times that this was the difference in 2 perfect squares. So they recognized it here, x plus 12, x minus 12. But they did not recognize it in the first question on the whole test, which caught me by surprise. But what some people did is some people left the x out of the answer. And I warned you, and I said this is what some kids seem to do every single year. They forget about the x all along, and they just put in the x plus 12 times x minus 12. You have to include the x. All 3 of these things must be in the answer. Likewise, a very similar thing happened on the next one. Kids recognized that the 5 was in there, and then they factored this to n minus 6 times n plus 1, but then they left out the 5. And this is all they wrote. They should have written the whole thing. Or the kids just wrote this, and they didn't factor the trinomial. But we said yesterday, when you see that word completely, factor completely, it always means 2 steps. So you have to be prepared for that. All right, we told you could skip number 11, so don't worry about that one. We will get to that in a few days. Oh, God. Huh. Number 12. Oh, the mistakes I saw on number 12. There's a reason why I have no hair. Divide by 4. Everybody's paper did that. Y equals 5/4 x minus 4. Do you have any idea how many people put that as the answer? Must have been more than a quarter of the class, probably a third of the class. What's the question say? What is the slope? The slope is 5/4. And not 5/4 x. The slope never includes the x. The slope is the number in front of the x. Okay, number 13. We're going to distribute the 3. 9n minus 15 minus 6n plus 1 is negative 8. Same side, same operation. 3n, same side, same operation. Minus 14 is negative 8. Add 14 to both sides. 3n is 6. Divide by 3. N is 2. We did a very good job on that one. There were little, if any, problems on that. Okay, so now we're through number 13 on the test. And now we get to an area where it again called into doubt your preparation. I just don't think you prepared for this. The directions here are to solve. Solving means it's got to say x equals, or n equals, or y equals, something equals. It doesn't mean factor. Take a look at number 14. We always look for a greatest common factor. In this case, they share an x in common. So I get 2x minus 7 equals 0. Now, the thing that gets a little bit frustrating, I'm not as frustrated as I used to be. I used to get angry. Kids go about and they solve this one, and they get 2x equals 7, and they divide by 2. I believe a kid who got only one wrong on the whole test got this one wrong. X equals 3.5. It looks beautiful. It looks wonderful. But x also equals 0. This guy must be accounted for. And I specifically said when we were reviewing, be aware of this. Kids forget it every single year. Remember, it's this x here times this thing that equals 0. So either one of them can be 0. So x equals 0. This must be a part of your answer. So the answer is 0, comma, 3.5, or 0, comma, 3.5. Number 15. Again, some people factored it. C minus 7 times C, C minus 10 times C plus 3 equals 0. That looks great. And then kids went over here and they wrote C minus 10, C plus 3. Only 3 or 4 kids, maybe even less. Maybe 2 or 3 kids did that in all the classes. But no! Maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy on the right. Add 10 to both sides. C equals 10. Minus 3 to both sides. C equals negative 3. The correct answer here is 10 and negative 3. Now we get to number 16. And this is a problem that cost a handful of kids at least 20 points on the test. Maybe upwards of 25 points. This is what I saw a handful of kids do. They knew to get everything on one side. Minus 10. N squared. And this is what they wrote. Minus 13n equals 0. You can't do that. This 10, guys, is a number. The 3n is 3n. You can't combine numbers with n's any more than you can combine puppy dogs with kittens. So the correct way to do this is to subtract the 10, and you get n squared minus 3n minus 10 equals 0. Now you factor. N minus 5 times n plus 2 is 0. Maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy on the right. N equals 5. N equals negative 2. Those are the correct answers. Okay? And then likewise, those same students did the same mistake on the next question. They subtract the 20, which is the right step, but then they put it with the x's and they wrote something like minus 31x. No. 3x squared minus 11x minus 20 equals 0. A number like 20 can never be combined with the 11x. It can be multiplied, it cannot be combined. And in this case, we're supposed to combine. Since it cannot be, I get minus 11x minus 20. All right, so I look for a common factor. There is none. I go to plan B. X squared minus 11x minus 60. Factor that. That's x minus 15, x plus 4. I know I'm doing that fairly quickly, but you can check it out with your calculator if you wish, or just verify it back by multiplying back. But since I multiplied by 3 here by plan B, I must divide back in by 3 here. So I get x minus 5 times 3x plus 4. Of course, equals 0. So maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy on the right. I'm going to do the right first. 3x is negative 4. Divide by 3. X is negative 4/3. Add 5. X is 5. Now, as far as the results that go in the space, 5, negative 4/3. 5, negative 2. Right? We gotta, when kids put factors in the spaces, when you're specifically told before the test, there's a difference between factoring and solving. Make sure you do the right one, because in the past, kids have made this sort of mistake. You were prepared by me ahead of time, very specifically. There's an upcoming question that I didn't over-prepare for. I did let you in on it a little bit, but I didn't drill it into you. So I can understand struggling more on that one. These guys were drilled into you. And if you didn't walk in prepared for it, either you lost your train of thought during the test, or you need to do a way better job of preparing. Okay. We did I'll tell you what, we did a very good job of starting this problem. We did not do a very good job of finishing this problem. First, consecutive odd integer. This is just set up, has to be done. And second, consecutive odd integer. N plus 2. Now, it says here that the key word here, product, is 15. What does product mean? Product means to multiply. So when I multiply them, I have to get 15. Distribute, and I get n squared plus 2n equals 15. And now, remember those people that I spoke of a couple of minutes ago about how they combined the letters and the number? The people who were doing this, first off, a lot of people got it fully right. But if they didn't, here's the minus 15, and some people wrote n squared plus or minus 13n, and you cannot do that. The 15 cannot be combined with the 2n. One's a number, one's a variable. Now I factor, I get n plus 5 times n minus 3 equals 0. And we did a question exactly like this 3 days in a row before the quiz, maybe even more. And I get n equals negative 5, and here we add 3, and we get n equals 3, and kids stopped. And that wound up losing a lot of kids a point or two, because it says here that you want to find two consecutive odd integers whose product is 15, and then it says, no, there are two pairs of consecutive integers. So in this case, then I have to do n plus 2, which is negative 3, and that's a pair of integers that multiplies out to be 15. And over here, n plus 2 is 5, and 3 and 5 is a pair of integers. So a lot of kids just stopped and didn't do that last step. Cost you some points. Again, that's the kind of thing that you should have been thoroughly prepared for. Okay? This was a question that was very challenging. Very challenging. And I didn't over-prepare you. And on purpose I didn't over-prepare you, because at some point we have to see what you can do without being over-prepared. There was an old Regents exam question very similar to this years ago, and we want to make sure that you can do a question like this in case it seems new to you at the time. So I expected when I graded this question that I would get a lot of kids to get half or slightly more than half credit. I did not expect a lot of kids to get full credit. I didn't get a lot of kids to get full credit. So if you struggled on this one, it's not the same kinds of mistakes. All of the previous mistakes, we drilled and went over, I cannot tell you how many times, and you know it. I don't even have to tell you. You know it, you know it, you know it. This one, different deal. We touched on it. I hinted at it. But it was more challenging. So let's go through this. Ready? A rectangular garden measures 7 by 10. We like to set up our problems, and we do that in the case of shapes by drawing. Then it says a path that measures the same on all sides is to be created around the garden. And we did this the other day. In fact, it may have been the same exact numbers we did. Because I remember saying that it's the same distance, we'll call it x, all the way around. And I said to you guys, what is this distance? And we struggled to get the answer together, but eventually you figured out, well, look, if it's x from here to here, and then it's 7 to here, and then it's another x, altogether that's 2x plus 7. And likewise, for the length, it's going to be from here to here x, from here to here 10, and from here to here another x, so that's 2x plus 10. And then we go over and remember how to find area. So 2x plus 10 times 2x plus 7 is equal to 108. And I do think we had a handful of kids get this completely right now that I think about it. Let's double distribute here. 4x squared plus 14x plus 20x plus 70 equals 108. Combine like terms in the middle there. 4x squared plus 34x plus 70 is 108. Subtract the 108 from both sides to get it together. And I noticed something when I looked at people's papers. When people saw that there was a number here and subtracted the 108, they did put the numbers together. They knew not to put it with the x, the 34x in there. So if there's a 34x and no number, it just becomes the 34x and then the number. It doesn't, you don't combine the numbers in the 34x. So 4x squared plus 34x minus 38 is equal to 0, because we want to get it equal to 0 being a quadratic. Now I look for a common factor. Oh, bam! 2. 2x squared plus 17x minus 19 equals 0. I can't factor the 2x squared plus 17x minus 19. There's no greatest common factor. I go to plan B. 2 times x squared plus 17x minus 38 equals 0. And it just so happens 19 times 2 gets me 38 and gets me 17. So 2 times x plus 19 times x minus 2 equals 0. And then I have to divide back in by 2. And I get 2. And then I get x plus 9.5. And then I get x minus 1 equals 0. I'm kind of running out of room. So I'm going to go up over here. Maybe the 2 equals 0. Maybe the x plus 9.5 equals 0. Maybe the x minus 1 equals 0. 2 never equals 0, so I reject that. I minus the 9.5 here, and then you know what? I'm going to reject that too, because this is representing a length. I can't get a negative length. I add 1 to both sides, and I get x is 1. Now I take that 1 and I plug it in. 1, 1, 1, 1. So this distance becomes 9, 2 times 1 plus 7. And this distance becomes 12. And lo and behold, 12 times 9 is 108. That is a difficult, challenging question. And there is no, if you walked in and you tried it and you did your best and you got, 3, maybe even 2, but preferably 3 or 4 or more out of 6, you did okay. That's not why you struggled. That's not why you failed. If you failed, it has everything to do with all those previous questions, not this one. And now, we are going to graph the two inequalities, the last question on the test. Okay, so, first one up, y is less than 2/3 x minus 5, the slope is 2/3, the y-intercept is -5. As a whole, we did well on this, 2, 3, 4, 5. We didn't do perfect, but we did well. Up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. Generally speaking, kids did really well. A little sloppy. Oh, geez, I made a mistake. Hold it. Let me erase that. See, I went a little too fast. I was actually thinking of specific kids to write to and make sure that they knew how to do this, but I should not have thought about that. Okay. Minus 5, 2, 2, 4, 5, and then up 2 over, pardon me, up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3, up 2 over 3. Backside here. And the mistake that I had made before is it was not a broken line. It should be a broken line. And I'm going to get y is less than 2/3 x minus 5. Now, I also have to shade below. plus it's less than. Remember, greater than shades above, less than shades below. Just think about it as being in a pool. If you are above 4 feet tall, your head's over water, above the water. If it's below, if you're less than 4 feet tall, it's under the water. Okay, this guy. Well, now we gotta do a little work. 3y plus 2x is greater than or equal to 9. I gotta get the y all by itself. So I get 3y is greater than negative 2x, greater than or equal to, plus 9 divided by 3. So I get the slope is negative 2/3. The y-intercept is 3. So I go up to 3, and I go down 2 over 3. A couple of kids messed up the ups and downs. If it's negative, we always go left to right. If it's negative, it goes down. Now this one is a solid line. And I get 3y plus 2x is greater than or equal to 9. And I'm going to shade above. And that leaves me with this area over here where the two shaded areas intersect. That's the solution set area. And then it says pick a point in the solution set. And I picked one right around here. I got, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 0 right there. But anything in that area worked just fine. One kid put 0, 10. I was like, oh, poor kid. All right, that's how you do every question on your test. I certainly hope that you take some time over this snowy to be weekend and you get all of this understood so that when I pass your test back to you, you are in good shape for understanding. Okay.